The architect just wants to move to the next phase. This is business as usual. That's your career. You do something, you get paid, and you walk away. Goes to the next team. They do something, they get paid and walk away. Construction alone is extremely complex. There's so many different contractors and subcontractors that touch it. And then when they hit their milestone, they pass it off, get paid, and they move on because that's their business. That isn't going to change. I believe AI will actually help people realize that everything is a little more holistic, and the end customer is what we should be thinking about. That end asset is what we should be thinking about.
Welcome back to another episode of Activating Curiosity. I am Ryan Ware, and if you're enjoying the podcast, be sure to follow, subscribe on YouTube, and share it with your network so that we can continue to grow the podcast and get to listeners who might also enjoy these conversations that we have on Activating Curiosity. Today is going to be a conversation that we're all talking about, we're all hearing. We all have different opinions about it and how it's going to impact our lives, our businesses, and the world around us. And that has to do with AI. But the one thing that I think is constant in all of this is the humans as it relates to artificial intelligence. And this gentleman, he has spent his career within technology, but has been focused a lot with the AEC industry and how we're beginning to look at our projects, designing and integrating designs and working along with technology. And I have Timber Barker. He is the CEO and founder of Boom Interactive. Hey, Timber, how are you?
Great. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to the conversation. I know we've got a chance to connect a few times. But before we dive in, I don't want to tell too much of your story and how you got into working alongside the AEC industry and all of the work that everyone's doing within their areas of focus. Tell a little bit about your history, kind of what got you into the technology piece, and then also just how you started to look at the AEC industry, and then we'll dive into the episode.
That's loaded. I could start like Chunk did in Goonies and start at 7th grade on a stage. It all started in 7th grade. No, it's a really big story. It's a great story. Let's just start with Boom, right? So Boom Interactive is an AI company based out of Salt Lake City, Utah, and we also have a satellite team out in Manchester in the UK. But like, where did I come from? Where did I get this? And I grew up pretty blue collar, white collar, on a ranch, and built things with my hands. My grandfather taught me how to cut and weld when I was young. So we were logging, we were ranching, hence the name Timber. It's actually short for Timberline. I was always a nerd growing up, and I got into computers, mainly hardware, in mid 90s, just playing around. Parents got a PC, just kind of like all of us, and it was something that was pretty expensive back then, and so it was a big deal to get, and I just dove into how it worked. And fast forward, I've had many roles in a lot of different companies. I was good with numbers, so I worked at Ernst & Young. I was in a design-related field with instructional design, adult learning methodologies, and how can you take all this data and get people to understand it. So that's been most of my career. Own a video game company as well as a film school for kids. Those just kind of fell in my path, and I was able to pick those up very nicely. And now I have Boom Interactive. Those companies run and operate themselves. Help. My wife has an architectural firm, and so in comes why we're focusing in the AEC world, in the built world. The built world for me was easier to understand, and sometimes when I'm speaking and to schools and to some groups, I talk about why we even have AI. Like, what is AI? There's the confusion of what it is. We're all trying to treat it like it's something that we've already dealt with. Like, oh, I just need a website, right? Let me just Web 1.0, and if I don't catch up to Web 2.0, then my company's going to be behind. And it's actually much different than that. And we're all just scratching the surface.
Hmm.
Every single one of us is scratching the surface with AI, and we're like, okay, what do you use? Do you use anything in
Do
AI?
I? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. No, I've got a number of different, like chat. Obviously, I've used
yeah,
Claude. You name any of the large language sort of models that are out there,
yeah,
and then everybody's embedding it, right? But yeah, yeah.
yeah, and everybody's using it. I don't know a single person who hasn't used it or is using it actively right now.
Hmm.
And that is scratching the surface. So LLMs, the only reason we have those is because we're also narcissistic with typing to each other in social media and what we had for
Right.
breakfast and all of these things. That's all public data, and most of that is pulled from public data. And we saw the really the biggest opportunity with AI is in the private data,
Hmm.
and there's nothing more private than the built world. So all the way from design to procurement, estimation, to the actual build or install, to then delivery, handoff, punch listy type stuff, and then
Right.
handover to manage this property, this asset now. And
Hmm.
land and property is the most expensive thing anyone's ever gonna own
Right.
or manage. It's a huge part of a lot of different portfolios out there. And so we're like, man, if we could tap into that and tap into that data and start unlocking some of that data, what could it do? Mainly,
Hmm.
if you had the information, what could you do with that? But I'll be honest with you, we didn't really start with what I'm talking about right now. It's really only because the advancement in AI and people's adoption of it that I'm now talking about it in this way.
Right.
Meaning, what we built 6.5 years ago, and we got a full time team working on this. What we built back then was really like a simpler way to design, right? I don't want to go learn SketchUp. I don't want to go and learn Revit. I'm not a 3D modeler. I use Pinterest and I can show my friend a picture. That's what I want, right? That's
Yeah.
so in that world, it was very much so like I got a Pinterest board. I kind of know what I want. Here you go. And we were just aiming to make a simpler way to communicate those designs in a very simple kind of 3D world. Um, just let's level set the information, and then with the information, let's take it to that next level.
Hmm.
And we've evolved, and we've evolved quite well. We have multiple patents behind our technology. We have 10 filed, actually 11 filed, and 5 issued at this point, and we're
Hmm.
pursuing the rest. And a lot of those have AI components inside of those patents. 3 of them are image recognition patents that use AI to help go from a 2D image to a 3D scene.
Hmm.
And then we have multiple patents around. Okay, well, once you get the data and people are using it, what can they now then do with it? And our goal really was to just launch kind of a SaaS model, because that was
Yeah.
like the hot thing. Everyone's
Right.
SaaS, 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 and investors love to invest in SaaS. And we were like, yeah, let's do a SaaS model. This is a kind of a one-to-many solution that we can just off the shelf, people could use it and do this. Well, with AI, that's really changed a lot, not only for us, but for our customers, but also people we engage with on a daily basis right now.
Hmm.
Uh, so everyone out there knows who Jensen is, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
Jensen Huang,
we assume.
CEO, a really great guy. I've had a privilege of waving to him, and he's CEO of NVIDIA, the wealthiest company in the world. And he said, last year, he just said, this is AI is the greatest technology equalizer of all time. So
Hmm.
AI will equalize every single business. And if that's the case, so if you're a small business all the way to a large business, you now have the opportunity to jump on that bandwagon and be like the first to test drive the new automobile because we're all
Hmm.
riding horses. And that's kind of the stage that we're at. And there's nothing more human than that.
This episode of Activating Curiosity is brought to you by Overcast Innovations, architects, designers. Have you ever conducted a project walkthrough, looked up at the ceiling, and wondered, when did that decision get made? Not because it was necessarily wrong, but because it wasn't your original design. Most have experienced that moment. Somewhere between design, coordination, procurement, and installation, decisions get made that shape a space. The question is whether design could have been preserved if questions were asked and answered earlier in the process. Overcast Innovations is helping project teams rethink how building systems are coordinated by bringing key decisions forward and reducing complexity before work reaches the field. Because protecting design starts long before installation ever begins. Learn more at overcastinnovations.com.
And so we shifted from just throwing software at people into more of a managed services to say, look, you want to get here as a company
Mm-hmm.
and you're right here. We have to build a foundation first. Where's all your data? Where's all your information? Where are all your workflows? So let's
Yeah.
document those workflows. And until we have that data, you really can't use the next level of AI. Sure, you could use the LLMs that everybody's using, and you're trying to, embed that into your lives and into your personal lives and your work lives.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, and that's great. But for you to move to the next phase, the next level, which everyone's trying to get to right now, like rapidly, and they're throwing a lot of money at it, is kind of
Yeah.
that AI workflow phase. And then from that phase, they're trying to get to agentic.
Mm-hmm.
So agentic is where you're going to start to see some massive, massive ROI and time saving elements. But you're not
Mm-hmm.
going to get there by throwing $500 million at a bunch of tokens. I
Yeah.
don't know if you saw that news article, but so I know I'm saying a lot. I know I'm talking a lot about things, but I think the message is, look, AI is personal.
Mm-hmm.
It's personal, and AI is an
Yeah.
operating system, and it could be yours. So you can build your own dashboards. You can build your own AIs to
Mm-hmm.
manage your workflows in your life. I'm very uh, adamant about human in the loop. Human in the loop
Mm-hmm.
is key. AI will not do 100% of everything. I don't believe it ever should. And if you
Right.
figured out how it could do 100% of something, well, you have to look at it to know it did 100%, right? It's still your
Yeah.
human brain in your eyes, right? So nothing really is 100%, right? Um, So if that's the case, then we have to start at the individual level. And
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes companies buy software at the corporate level, at the top level, and then they make everybody use it. Like, nope, you're going to use this CRM now. You're going to use this VMS or BMS or this or that or this. And
Mm-hmm.
they kind of force that in. And we're coming in kind of reversed. We're saying, look, if AI is personal, why don't we work with the individual on a team that's struggling? And there's a pain point with something that the handoff isn't as accurate. There's so many issues with something. Let's
Mm-hmm.
let's start there, individual, impact a team, that impacts a organizational unit, which then of course impacts the entire company.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very handholdy. That's very much coming in. And I don't know if you've seen the stat where people are like, or businesses, they'll for every dollar a business spends on SaaS, they spend $6 in managed services. It's
Yeah.
kind of all over right now. And
Yeah. Well, and I
anyway,
think that's a no, I think that's a fair ending on that. I think that statement is that's a fair point because the human piece of the technology, right? As you just said, we do think that, hey, we're just going to throw, I'm not even going to pick on AI. I'm just going to say like pick an ERP, right? You put this
mhm,
software in, they are at an enterprise level or at least a departmental level that then has to feed somewhere else. But the humans, if there's 10 or 5 or 30, or 1,000 different humans that have to sit there and do it, like they've all have different experiences, with any kind of technology, let alone what we're starting to talk about now, which is AI. But I find it interesting that so you've had construction sort of in your background. You're working with your hands as a kid. You brought up,
yeah,
you kind of been around it. Your wife, as you said, is in the architectural side. That starts to drive the spark for you to say, "Hey, I want to get involved in some of these areas or pain points that you saw within the industry, or an
yeah,
opportunity to kind of help resolve." 6 years in with Boom, you guys have, like any startup, you've gone through sort of your growth and understanding of who you were situationally has changed, even since I think we've talked. Things are sort of changing on that approach and perspective of how we should be talking and thinking about AI, artificial intelligence. And you mentioned kind of go to market strategies between the software as a service, or thinking even back to how most of us in the industry, like when AutoCAD came out, right? Like you got a disk and everybody just loaded on the computer. Then suddenly it became a SaaS model, early 2000s. But AI is so different than a lot of those other technologies. So let's take a step back then. You mentioned some of these areas, but like for you, Timber, like when you started Boom and as you've evolved, really dive into those key problems that you're aiming to solve. You talked about it at the human level, so dive deeper into that because I think that's critical. But those real deep problems you're aiming to solve to help the AEC industry with AI and AI adoption.
Yeah, great question. Like, I mean, the first thing we need to solve is it was very painful just to get the data that a customer already paid for out of them so that we could even put a
Yeah.
idea together that or a design together for them.
Hmm.
And so if you went out to our website, you'd see kind of a couple mission statements and what we really do. So we're AI technology for the built world. And so we have various technology pieces that can support the built world. However, the key thing that we saw was the as-built crisis. And
Yeah.
the as-built crisis is 100, what is it, 100 million, 100 billion actually, waste of just time by not having accurate as-built. And I
Right.
think people, if they're listening to this and they've either done a survey or a walkthrough, or they had to come do a test fit in an existing
Hmm.
building, or even when they're done with a project, what they're delivering isn't really the true as-built because it was built just a little differently because the team out in the field had to build it a little differently than drawn. That
Right.
means that data already is inaccurate. And so we felt, look, let's solve the as-built crisis. Let's be the new floor plan solution for every single building in the world.
Hmm.
And let's let that as-built solution be the central hub that can connect into any system, regardless of the building, regardless of the building systems that it has. And if that central hub, if you will, can connect into every single system, even a facilities management system or an FM system,
Right.
CAFM system, even if that central hub could connect into every single one of those, let's now wrap an AI strategy around that central hub that then any team and anyone coming to visit or having to do a new bid for something now
Hmm.
has access to all of that data. Because who likes to stare at a floor plan drawn by an architect to build a building, and that's the best asset you have? So we first want to unlock your drawings. So let's unlock
Hmm.
your drawings and your as-built solution. Let's build that into a digital twin, a real true digital twin, because everyone throws digital twin word around they have for 20 years.
Yeah.
And to me, a digital twin isn't really a digital twin unless it's alive. So just looking at some image or like a Matterport scan of something, like a point cloud scan of something, that's still just a 3D hologram that I can pinch and zoom and rotate around. It's not really alive, so it's not really a true twin. It's just a like a photograph.
Right.
So let's unlock your drawings. Let's now build your twin. So let's build your building or your land in digital form. Then let's connect all your systems and all your whatever you're doing, whatever your workflows are, whatever your systems are, and then let's power that with AI. Let's take a look at that and say none of these systems talk to each other, by the way.
Right.
So we aim to be that central hub and more of a holistic approach, meaning you can use this central hub for a planning and design session, for estimation and bidding, for again a map of install map that has O&M manuals tied to it, and also
Hmm.
the specs or the specifications of what you're even installing. And then when you deliver it or when it's done, when the project's done, the as-built is automatically updated. Now that
Hmm.
data never dies, it never gets old, it stays current, up to date. That's naturally going to speed up all bidding and estimating of anything, regardless of what AIs you're using and different things that each team is using. Having
Hmm.
that data set is key. And I'm a visionary. So now imagine that data, you're able to talk to it. So you're able to prompt or speak to all the information in your property or your properties or your portfolio. And again, doesn't matter if you have a tiny, small mom and pop shop or even your home, all the way up to I have a portfolio of thousands of buildings and they all use different systems. So the same
Yeah.
thing for everybody. And if you can level set that, you will have the richest data set in the world that AI does not have right now.
Hmm. So you're like diving a little deeper into it, because I think something you said is interesting there about it being live, right? One, the digital twin being live, and then the talking to and being able to prompt to that. Because getting, thinking about all of these things, yes, as builts have generally been a book, a binder that was handed over that has gone to digital, but they're all digital formatting of file systems. Not so much where a facilities manager can, as you're saying, like go into a digital twin, click on something, see what that piece is. And, we can all talk about, yes, there's changes in the field and who did record what to get onto the drawing as an as built, right? So there's that is a huge undertaking for any architect and contractor to wrap up that piece of
Yeah.
closeouts, right? And it tends to be something that no one wants to do because you want to get on, especially designers, right? Architects want to get onto that next project. They
Yeah.
don't want to look backwards and compile this, but the reality is that it can be compiled as the project is going on, right? Which we're seeing more and more of as data or as technology really advances that. But this dive deeper into, your concept of this live thing that you're speaking to, just a little more, kind of sharing with listeners.
Sure. Absolutely. Like I love talking about it. As you can tell, I'm extremely passionate about this. I love what I do and I obsess over the problem.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of people I know obsess over the solution too much, and so they turn really salesy. And I'm I obsess over the problem because only through the
Right.
problem and failing or fast failing that problem have we learned and even built this thing that we're even talking about, right?
Hmm.
So diving deeper into, yeah, I could take that in a couple different directions. Yeah, which part of that specifically would you like me to harp on? Because I will
I'd,
go on a
I'd say
tangent.
I'd say just describe, the digital twin piece. Like go deeper into your concept or idea and what you're doing with the live piece, right? As you're saying, like it's not just the generic term of digital twin. So that,
Yeah.
again, I think it's your background and kind of what you're doing. It's a unique term to use. It's live, and what does that mean to architects? But what does it actually mean to facilities managers and everyone sort of involved from that piece?
Yeah. I mean, I still see myself as a student in the whole AEC and the built world and even FM. And I've learned a
Hmm.
lot about FM over the last, I'd say 18 months,
Right.
um, where to a point where I could do it. so, so I've learned a lot about it from really smarter people than me in that field. And so, um, yeah, connecting everything into a digital twin. Why? And it kind of goes back to, look, we have a film school for kids, teaches how to
Hmm.
communicate in a very creative way. We have a video game company. And so we're, as kind of an outlier, as kind of like a fish out of water a lot of times in a lot of the rooms that I'm in, I actually have a very different perspective,
Right.
in even just the AC and the digital twin space. You mentioned the architect just wants to move to the next phase. Well, this is business as usual. That's your career. You
Hmm.
do something, you get paid, and you walk away. Goes to the next team. They do something, they get paid and walk away. Construction alone is extremely complex. There's so many different contractors and subcontractors that
Yeah.
touch it. And then when they hit their milestone, they pass it off, get paid, and they move on because
Hmm.
that's their business. That isn't going to change. So I believe AI will actually help people realize that everything is a little more holistic, and the end customer is what we should be thinking about. That end
Right.
asset is what we should be thinking about. So we said, look, let's build a sandbox. And in the sandbox, this platform, because we call it a platform,
Hmm.
it isn't your typical off the shelf little solution that you're gonna be able to grab and really know what to do in it.
Right.
You can do it can do a lot of stuff, but it's more about, well, great. All of the hard stuff is done in the software and the technology that we built. Now add on your pieces to it. We're going to help you connect into that. That's what turns that live. And a really simple example is our software, our platform that we've built. It's called Core Spec 3D, and we named it Core Spec 3D because the core of a building is that floor plan,
Hmm.
and spec is specification, and then it's in 3D, so that just,
Yeah.
we tack that on.
Easy to
Uh,
remember.
we a lot of times though we just say core spec. So
Right.
so we generated and created core spec where it can actually flow through an entire process. Like, can it flow through an entire holistic build. An example of this is an architect who's using Revit, and they pass off the RVT or the Revit file to the next group
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't have Revit. So the designers design in 3D, then they
Mm-hmm.
produce 2D, and this team comes in, estimates, does all this stuff. They come in and they build from that 2D
Yeah.
blueprint, and they do a fantastic job at it. That's never going to change. I don't think you can build from a 3D model very effectively or efficiently. I don't see it. Maybe I could be wrong. But then it goes from 2D, and then it just gets passed over in 2D, and the FM team left, unless they want to spend a lot of money, they're
Right.
not going to have a 3D digital twin that they can interact with or that they can learn how to use easily and have it as a day-to-day thing. That's what we built. We built an entire thing that can flow through every single project. It may not be that effective going back and forth with Revit and CAD and Bluebeam and the things that everyone's using kind of in the middle there, but the
Yeah.
bookends, absolutely. If I can get people to start using that and understanding how to more effectively communicate in a live digital twin,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to harp on that a lot. It has to be a living digital twin. So it has to work on every device, and it has to be easy for everyone to use. I don't want to have to go learn something new. I'm not a 3D modeler. I don't want to learn how to be a 3D modeler. But it's
Right.
very easy to just kind of rotate something, click on something, or tap something, type something in, or say something, take a picture, and then move on.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason we love 3D is because it's more accurate, and AI needs 3D. If you're going to
Mm-hmm.
do AI at the end, you have to have X, Y, and Z coordinates if you're going to be accurate at all. Otherwise,
Mm-hmm.
you have to train an AI to figure out how tall your ceilings are and what does the ceiling look like. And uh, that's a that's a big ask for AI.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. I think we're really focusing in with FM and construction right now, working with some pretty
Right.
big players. And at the same time, we're also working with some designers that are very specific designers in the security space. So a security integrator, security designer,
Mm-hmm.
they have a painful job of trying to get these as builts. And a lot of
Yeah.
times they don't even have floor plans. So they have to walk through, document what they see to the nines, even to estimate it.
Mm-hmm.
So they're spending all this money trying to
Right.
estimate something, boots on the ground, eyes up there. This is what we're doing. Put it into this work. We think this will be a good quote. We'll add a little padding onto it, send it
Yeah.
in. 9 weeks later, the group buying for it gets a bunch of quotes. They got to sift through, figure out who to go with and what system they're going to do. We're already impacting that industry, and we've sped that up.
Yeah.
And I will give a very specific practical example of this is a core spec digital twin. So you got a 2D image, or even just that person walking around can draw it on a napkin, take a picture of it, comes up in 3D. Now I can actually use that to do my quick survey, to do a very quick and rapid design. Now,
Mm-hmm.
if CoreSpec had my products in it, or my product line, or how I bid and how I estimate, basically while I'm building it out, it's generating and building in real time that estimate.
Right.
And now if I
Right.
can tie into a product catalog, say hand wall cameras, now I can actually be bringing each one of those in, which is now building my spec sheet. And I can show the customer live. I can share it with them. Say, hey,
Mm-hmm.
here's a view only link to a 3D model of a design that we've done. Who do you think is going to win the bid?
Mm-hmm.
That group. That group. So it's a good sales tool. It's a good marketing tool. It's a good tool to design with things. Now, fast forward, say the design is done, it's all installed, and I hand it over to the owner. And now owner has a facilities management team, whether that's in-house or they outsource it.
Right.
And now they have this data, this information. If we have that information already, and if we combined all the data into one, we now have the ability, or AI has the ability to uh, manage that system and look at blind spots that aren't covered, throw alerts, do different types of things, tie into the
Mm-hmm.
VMS or the access control system and look at it a little more holistically. There's a lot of AI being pushed in cameras right now, and public safety is extremely important
Right.
to all of our big customers. So they're like, hey, CoreSpec, hey, Boom Team, what are you guys doing for security? And so we're able to show these things and say, hey, this digital twin isn't just a fancy uh, aggregate of all of your documents and photos of where things are at. It's living and breathing, which means
Mm-hmm.
any live data can now be shared into it. And when that live data is shared into it from multiple systems that don't talk to each other, Now we're talking. And
Yeah.
a time-saving design effort that we have done with Hanwha, because I can now say that, is over the last 9 months been working with them, and we're like, look, if we have the digital twin, if we have a core spec digital twin, and now I have all the cameras and all the products, we have 1,200 products that are embedded into core spec that are camera systems and access control systems. Well, we have the megapixels of cameras, we have the field of view, the length of view. We can represent that in 3D very quickly,
Mm-hmm.
rapid 3D environments. And then if you know security design standards, which there are design standards out there, so we grabbed those
Right.
3 data sets and we generated a system that can design out an entire security solution coverage in a nanosecond.
Mm-hmm.
So I can hit a button, say, generate me a security system. I can do a survey and say, you know what? That wall isn't even there. Tap the wall in core spec, delete it, rerun. That's going to change your security system
Yeah.
and your requirements. So all within a second. That's how it's
Yeah.
impacting design.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is what I say to a lot of people. I'm like, look, once you have the data, you are now empowered to do a lot with it. That is one example. Another example is we took a 5-hour task with an FM team recently. By the way, this is just for an individual.
Mm-hmm.
So remember, it's at the personal level.
Somebody
But we
at
took,
the facilities.
yeah, some at the facility level that has
Yeah.
107 different issues. And I said to her, I said, what's your biggest one? What's your biggest pain point right now? And she told me what it was. And I said, okay, let's take a look at your workflow. Looked at her workflow and how to get that one planning, just the planning of that task done, 5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So we took that 5-hour task down to 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And so we gave her that time back with human in the loop,
It's a huge win.
because a huge, huge win. And she did it on her own pretty much, right? She's just like, well, I
Right.
do this and then I use this. We get a spreadsheet that does this, and then it comes back, and then I have to see if we even have it in stock, and then I have to use this tool to create a maintenance ticket, and then I submit it, and then the team gets assigned to this, and all those administrative tasks. That's where
Mm-hmm.
AI is going to impact the most. But
Right.
AI doesn't know what you do. You have
Yeah.
to teach it.
This episode of Activating Curiosity is brought to you by New Life Accounting. NLA is a construction-specific firm that provides bookkeeping, controller, and advisory services to commercial contractors. So whether you are struggling to stay on top of that job costing, manage the cash flow, or make big picture investment decisions in your business, their team will help you find financial clarity. For our listeners, they're offering a free diagnostic service. That's a $500 value. This diagnostic takes a look at your current financials to help you identify areas for improvement. Plus, it's a perfect opportunity to get an expert's advice on those most pressing accounting questions. To get your diagnostic scheduled, start by booking an intro call through the link in the show notes and tell them Ryan sent you. Right. And I think that's one of the things. I mean, those two examples, obviously are different. One individual person, which you multiply that out across a whole company, right? or think about firms and think about those administrative things. To,
Yeah.
as you mentioned before, it's like the cost of construction is increasing, but you mentioned like the security piece. Well, sometimes security is a contract that is it's taken on by the owner outside even a basic construction schedule or construction budget and construction contract, right? So there are owner provided things, but those things continue to drive the costs up on owners, which also mean the total budget for a client or, a client that an architect and engineer are designing for, like there's going to be push and pulls throughout if we aren't looking at ways to remove some of the friction and get through design faster with some of these systems. So
Mm-hmm.
thinking about it, not just in the security, I can think about like, well, how can you do it with fire alarm systems, right? Or even fire
Mm-hmm.
suppression. And something you kind of just said this at the end there, the data piece, because and I want to get into some of these obstacles and barriers that you're hearing most often, through these last 6.5 years, and especially now that, AI is really, at the forefront, when even then it wasn't quite so much. But a lot of times we'll bring any kind of technology in, whether it's just a software or a platform that we're putting over top, or trying to now it's AI built within a system and a process. we will overlay that in a bad process, or
Hmm.
we won't know what we don't know yet, right? Because we haven't been asked the right questions, or we're not asking the right questions. So, I'm curious, as you've been exploring these things, trying to remove, what I'm hearing is removing friction, removing a lot of tasks that don't bring high value to what we do in our profession, right? Within architecture and engineering, but also in construction and facilities managers. So, what are some of those obstacles and barriers that you've heard from the human side? Because now you're focused on, right? You're focusing back into the human piece, but how are you helping them understand that data? How are you helping them understand so that they're, if there is a broken process potentially that needs to shift because of how this AI or the platform that you're talking about can enhance, or any technology really, what are some of those things that you've heard, and how are you starting to think about them differently from a human perspective as it relates to AI and the integration and adoption?
Yeah, I mean, the typical stuff, the normal stuff. People are afraid of it, right? People are afraid of change. They're like, oh, I don't want to put all that in there because then AI will know. I hear that a
Right.
lot. And the other thing is, we have cybersecurity standards out there, and I actually helped build those. So when I was at Ernst and Young for a long period of time in the mid 2000s,
Hmm.
I was part of a lot of teams with SOC 2, ISO 2701, cybersecurity standards. We already have these frameworks in place to protect data and protect information. And
Right.
so it's not that hard of a conversation to say, well, what is your IT team? How are you protecting your own data right now? Is it sitting local? Is it sitting in the cloud? And if it is it you have SOC compliance around these types of things?
Right.
And they all do. So I'm like, okay, well, there you go. AI is not going to go outside those bounds, and if it's sitting in those systems, it's not going to go outside those bounds. The second thing they say is, well, we already use like Procore. We have, we have this tool over here, and they already have an AI module in what they're doing. I'm like,
Yeah.
great, fantastic, use it. All these big companies are now adding in certain AIs, whether that's like a RAG search engine type of a
Right.
of a of a tool or whatever. So they're already adding all these things in. I'm like, fantastic. You should use the feature, even if it says, hey, we're beta. Go use it,
Hmm.
because that one software in that one thing, AI will help that one thing do it. And what I'm saying is a little different. I'm saying you need a central brain to bring
Yeah.
all of those softwares in, even if those softwares use AI. And so I do hear a lot from people who are like, well, we already have a system and we already have AI and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And I'm like, that's fantastic. You still need to bring and build your company's AI brain. And any one of us
Right.
can build it. And it has to be personal. Because if it's not personal, then the individual or the human isn't probably going to trust it, are they? Which means
Right.
they need to build it from the ground up. So
Right.
we're a very different AI company in how we kind of approach those things, and it's been well received.
Hmm.
It's been well received in every company I talk to, big and small, and some massive companies actually consulting with them. They're kind of facing the same thing. They're worried if they don't use it, they're not going to be as efficient, and then they're going to
Right.
be obsolete, and then their competitors are going to kind of skyrocket beyond them,
Yeah.
and they're going to be able to do that because they have more cash and capital to do that. So everyone's afraid of that, right?
Well, and they're
So
being told that, right? I mean, more and more, that's all
yeah,
people are talking about. It's like, if you don't do this, you're going to be left behind, and that is not a very human approach.
no, it's not.
That's fear
It's
mongering
fear
a little bit.
mongering, and it's, although it might be a true statement, it
Yeah.
shouldn't be the statement to get someone to listen,
Right.
right? You're not
Right.
saying, there's. I believe everybody should hop on. Absolutely. This
Right.
is not a typical thing happening. This is a massive, massive movement. And there are, yes, a lot of naysayers, and they're like, it's the worst thing in the world, and I read an article the other day where the guy was like, this isn't something we even asked for, but then I'm helping somebody save 4 hours a day
Right.
in their task. And then now they can, one statement on our website we talk about is, it's actually one of my favorites. It's, we build AI so you can focus on what matters to you.
Hmm.
We're not going to tell you what that is. You might want to go drum up more business. You might want to use AI and restructure your whole team. You might want to do more social value stuff or more philanthropic stuff. You might want to spend more time with your family. That's up to
Right.
you. But AI will help you do that if you dive in. Like every single person, by the way, that I have met has the ability to learn how to vibe code.
Hmm.
Period. Learn it. You don't even know how
Hmm.
to need to know how to code to do half of these things. And it doesn't
Yeah.
take long to learn how to do it. Just pick something simple in your life and go build a dashboard for it. It'll cost you $17 in tokens, barely.
Right.
So you kind of get where
Yeah.
I'm going with that is
Yeah.
I, you know,
I think it's, just diving into the first statement you made, like people fear it, right? I mean,
yeah,
they are being told these things, and I think it's the misconception on what it is. I've seen, you know, seen posts out there or videos, and then people talking about, like, especially around construction, it's like, well, it's not, AI will never do the plumbing. Well, that's not what we're talking about with AI and what you're talking about, right? It's trying to go through this fourth industrialized revolution in decreasing the amount of time that we're spending on things again that we don't need to be. That we, whether you decide to work 40 hours or keep going 60, or, as we did, post second industrialized revolution, or
mhm,
as you said, like, can we get to a place in society where it is a 3-day work week, it is a 4-day work week, we're putting out the same amount of output, and gross domestic product is increasing, our livelihoods increasing, and we're getting back a way to live within a society. So,
wouldn't
hey,
that be nice?
you choose, right? The humans can choose that piece of it, how far
Yeah.
they, want to take it. But
What do you think's going to happen though? Like with that statement right there, because that's an interesting. I had a
mhm,
thought experiment with a group the other day, and we talking about what you just said, and we're like, man, we hope that
yeah,
people will choose quality of life, like spend a little more time helping others,
yeah,
right? I mean, we all hope that,
we hope
but
that,
the
yeah.
the natural capitalist in all of us is like, will that happen?
Well, I think, yeah. What do I think about it? I think that we tie our identity to what we do, and I don't know if that is the right, as a human. That's from me, and now turning 50 this year. Like, I don't need an identity, but I need a purpose, and finding a way to, define work. Right? What does work really mean? Does it have to mean that that's what I'm doing 5 days a week, or is working within my community, or helping coach a soccer team, or starting a nonprofit organization over here, plus having the business, right? Like, I think as humans, that's up for us to, to define again. I do think the younger generation wants something different than my generation, Gen X, in the way
Yeah,
we were taught, right? The way we were taught about work,
yeah,
and how work, you just go get a job, and you got to make sure you have money to put a roof over your head and food on the table. All those things can be true, but we weren't. The second industrialized revolution was always said, oh, we should be able to get to a 24 or 32-hour work week. Well, we didn't. Like you said, capitalist society drove us. So that is the people, who want to continue to drive and make more and more money, versus a core group that's probably going to say, that's not how we just don't see the need for that anymore.
yeah.
We want to give back some of our time and figure out a purpose. Anyway, that takes it down into this relationship between our work, our relationship with AI, our relationship with, well, I'm going to say change, because you were talking about some of these, people they fear change, and these things that are kind of being brought to them by executives or by the leaders in their company because they have to do it. Well,
Hmm.
the real answer is how do you go from a task that was taking 5 hours to 15, and the value of what you could do with those other 4+ hours, right?
Right.
So,
Just for her too. Like, but they
yeah,
have a portfolio of thousands of properties,
right.
and they're
So
all
that's a
a ton of
multiplier.
other FM. Yeah, there's a ton
Yeah.
of other FM, and on that point too, it's like just having a digital twin that's live with accurate data in it is saving
Yeah.
26 hours on average a month. just having the data. Forget. Well, actually,
Yeah,
let me take the live piece out of that. Without it being live, is saving 20 to 24 hours right now,
for
just for that
FM,
one
for
team.
those in facilities management. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, just for facilities management.
yeah.
But any really project, right? Any yeah,
Right.
any project. But
Well,
I agree with you. Like yeah, the gen now is growing up, and I don't think they want to work and crank 45, 50 hours a week till they're
no,
65.
no, I don't.
Like
And I hear it all the time in our industry. Like, you got to cut your teeth. You just got to grind through it, and you just, this is what you're supposed to do. And
that's what I tell my
I,
kids. I mean,
right. Well, and I think part of it is crushing, but I think the reality is you can work really hard at something. It doesn't mean that it's got to bury you in hours, and it's the only thing that's absorbing who you are.
yeah,
Right. And I think the problem is that because the construction industry has a shrinking labor force, and not just in the specialty trades, but inside the office, as well as architects and engineers. Every industry is seeing that. And that's going to continue to be the case, right? It doesn't matter. We don't have enough humans to do some of this work. So we have to exchange the things that we held on to or hold on to because we find them to have value, and that's us it's for us to decide that, but that we can find ways to release it and not have to deal with it. But we can't build enough infrastructure by using yesterday's methodologies and yesterday's solutions. So the only way that we're going to even be able to build, let alone maintain these facilities, because I do think the facility side is a tremendous opportunity. It's I think about as built. I think every time you went in to do a renovation of a project, and as we continue to build buildings that last 50, 100 years, right? That's what we're trying to do with
yeah,
everything
smart
now,
buildings.
right? And smart buildings that,
Everyone says
y-
it. I want a
yeah,
smart building. Like, well,
exactly.
where's your
It's
data? How you can't have a smart building if your building
if you don't have it.
doesn't know where to think.
Right. Well, and it's, the Internet of Things, like when it first started, and I think of like
Yeah,
building
I agree.
automation systems, right?
Yeah,
That's 16, 20 years old, even the first access control hardware. So
hmm,
all of these things, the live building, and how that is coming together is it's a security thing. It is a next gen and how that space might need to interact or change. It
yeah,
is a facilities manager's ability to know that that is actually something that is still there. It's still functioning. The warranty's running out on it or whatever, right? It's deferred maintenance, which just,
yeah,
again, is a cost. They're all cost to someone
yeah. Alert
down the
me,
line.
order it, get it in, get it installed, get it
Right.
done. Hit OK. Okay,
Right.
cool.
Yeah. It's done.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, I but we're not just FM and just that. Like we're also
right.
kind of the whole built world. We're saying, hey, there's still a lot of different use cases in any one of these, but we realized we have to handhold
Yeah.
these groups to that they really do want to get to this up here. They don't know how to get there. So let us
Yeah.
be your Sherpa, if you will. We're gonna guide you and handhold you to get to that. And we're gonna build you something you own, that you get
Yeah.
to run, you get to manage, you get to operate.
Hmm.
Um, and then at the same time, we are also impacting education.
Hmm.
Earlier I said I have a film school for kids, and when I was at Xerox and Ernst and Young were some customers of mine back in the days when I was doing instructional design, which is how
Hmm.
adults learn. That adult. So I brought all of that weird experience I have into now Boom Interactive and our product Core Spec 3D. I brought all of my failures and all of my successes
Right.
into this entity to say, great, if we're doing this in the built world, we also need to impact schools and education. So we are
Hmm.
doing a lot in the education world where Core Spec is a tool for education,
Hmm.
not for a very specific curriculum, but let's just say construction or FM or even PCB board design. There's a lot of features we have where our tool can actually help these students learn these topics quickly. And when
Hmm.
these schools start to adopt other AIs, which they're very slow to adopt, right? Very very fearful in that industry.
Yeah.
But when they start to do that and they start to integrate all these things, these kids are going to learn as they watch their YouTube shorts, their TikTok shorts, their Instagrams. That's the world of these kids. They need a micro something to engage them very quick, and then they move on, and then they
Hmm.
engage something and they move on. That's the force we have to train into. Cool, let's slow down a little bit. Let's
Yeah.
teach you the same way you consume, but let's slow down a little bit and say, here's the impact if you don't do this right in the real world. Like,
Yeah.
if that makes
No,
sense.
no, it
So
does. And actually,
I know I jumped to education and whatnot. I'm just letting you know we
yeah.
kind of we're focusing on both of those right now.
Hmm. Well, and I think you just kind of landed on the next area I wanted to kind of dive into, which is, what makes it so important for us to solve. And we got into it a little bit, but you just described something of the slowdown piece, right? Which I think goes back to the obstacles. Like, I think a lot of times we try to rush through a change. Someone's forcing it. We didn't want it. What did you say? We didn't ask for this, right? Somebody said that. We didn't
Yeah,
ask for this. So, one, that feels like forced compliance to them. Like, we didn't ask for it. You're telling us we have to do it. You're treading on me,
yeah,
right? So, the slowdown piece is we have fatigue, we have change fatigue, we have mentality. Our mentality is like, we've tried everything, this stuff doesn't work, or like you said, like we already use this, we don't need anything else. All of those things can be true, and at the same time you could still need it, right? Like, there's not an or in some of these situations. There can be ands that will impact your business, impact your life. But I think about how what you just said with the education piece, because that, they are, I mean, we all are, like, we've, since social media has come out, like, you got to grab somebody's attention in 6 seconds or less. They're going to tell you if you're worth your time in 6 seconds or less, right? Like, you're going to scroll on, move on, and we're going to judge everything very quickly, and we're going to miss a lot of things. And that is true, and I'm assuming this is the case, you're seeing it too, is like that slowdown period. But I want to, talk a little bit about that, but talk about this importance. Like, what makes this, from your perspective, Timber, like, you got into this, you're into this area, like, what makes it so important to solve this problem that you're aiming to solve? And not only that, like, getting through some of these obstacles and barriers to do that. Every project has them. The decisions nobody planned on making, a coordination issue surfaces, an RFI gets written, a field condition that changes the original approach. Most of the time, these aren't failures. They're simply the result of multiple systems and multiple trades trying to come together later in the process. That's one of the reasons this episode is sponsored by Overcast Innovations. Their team believes many of those coordination conversations should happen much earlier, when project teams still have more flexibility, more options, and fewer constraints. By integrating building systems into a coordinated ceiling solution, they're helping reduce the complexity that often creates those last minute decisions in the first place. Learn more by visiting overcastinnovations.com.
well, yeah. I mean, it does take focus, obviously, with what we're doing. Finding the right customer base and the right use cases takes a lot of focus. We can't
Mm-hmm.
do everything. We can't build something that's an end all be all for everything. However, AI is making that a lot easier to do a lot more than
Mm-hmm.
just one thing. That's kind of why we're looking at the education side of things. Um, and the slowdown piece is equally as important. If I'm saying, hey, AI is here to stay, it's going to be massive, you need to jump in. So I'm a huge fan of it. I use it daily. It
Right.
impacts my life daily. For example, today I literally built an entire Vanta SOC 2 ISO 271 dashboard for myself.
Yeah. I
I
have
didn't have
no
to spend
idea what
50.
you just said, but
I know. It's just a compliance framework that
yeah.
I
No,
helped
it's
pioneer in the early 2000s, but then today you have to spend so much money as a company to get SOC
yeah.
2 compliant and ISO 271 cyber compliant. I'm just telling
Mhm.
you, I was like frustrated with that, and so I went and built my own.
Yeah.
Like that's the slowdown piece. Is it interested me to go build
Mhm.
my own? And when companies tell me, they're like, we already have something and we're already going to be deploying it, or they're like, we tried it and it didn't work. Well,
Yeah.
it didn't work because you treated it like everything else that has come before. And you can't
Exactly.
do that with AI. If AI is personal, you have to go down to the personal level and this one person how they do things in their workflow. And if it works for the rest of the FM world or the construction world, fantastic. Share
Hmm.
it. Share that
Yeah.
with the rest of the groups and say, hey, I did this and it worked for me on that. Like, oh, well, I don't use Google Drive. I use OneDrive. Like, oh, okay, we can still you can still tie into that.
Right.
And the key thing also, I'll jump back to the fear thing because I know I'm not answering your question, but I'll jump back to the fear thing because it just popped in my head is, um, we come in and we consult with groups first and we say, hey, look, you need to protect all that data, protect all that information, that second brain, because AI is doing like every 90 days is something changing. Like what if N8N gets bought out by Claude? Or what if
Right.
ChatGPT gets merged into something else and then it gets bought by a conglomerate? Now you get what I'm saying? Like so much
Yep.
is changing and that fear in people and these huge data centers are being built now to
I know.
do all this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like protect that central core, and that takes a platform of data and information. That's what we built. So we built the thing that's going to help you gather the information, gather that data, protect that. No matter what happens around it, you'll be able to tie
Hmm.
into it. Um, so kind of
Yeah.
going into that, and then I know I didn't answer your question. So kind of coming back to your question a little bit. It is kind of what we're doing with just uh, well, I jumped over to the education thing actually as well, didn't I? So I'd answered two questions you didn't ask,
No,
and
that's all right.
I jumped over around to those other things because I felt like those were important to
Well, and I
restate.
think, yeah, just you're getting to it, but it's really that, like, what makes it so important, right? I mean, it's important to you, but like, what
Yeah,
makes it important to, like, if you're talking to your clients, you're talking, you got the listeners here, like, what makes it so important that they are thinking about it in the way that you're talking about it from that personal perspective? Because I do, before you dive in, there's something you just said I think is so critical, is that if AI is personal, that is a huge difference between, as you said before, the one size fits all rubber stamp, just put it over top of the whole company or department. And that's where most technologies are, right? It's like it's either out of the box or we change the ERP to work with one group and it might not work with everyone else. And that's just so be it. You got
and
to
it might
figure it
not.
out.
No, it might
Right.
not. I
So,
mean, that's actually yeah okay. So met with a group yesterday,
mhm,
and they're like, well, we have an old system that has no API. We know it has no API, so there's no other system that can get that data that can do that thing. Well, AI right now can go read every single screen and manage a computer as you sleep. So it
right.
can grab all of that data and all that information and put that into that brain I was telling you about. So
Yep.
it can do that. So to answer your question, why is it important? So I'm not saying change anything that you do. I'm just saying bring it all into one brain. So we're not
Mhm.
coming in saying this is huge digital transformation thing and it's this big, you got to get on board. And I am saying it's important to get on board. That's me saying it. The
Right.
world's saying if you don't, you're going to be left behind and it's going to replace your job and it's going to do that.
Yeah.
Fine, like whatever. Jump in, try it. Use what you currently do, organized a little bit better, and AI can work as you sleep and show you
Mhm.
things in the morning. It's impacting marketing and PR massively. Film right now, I don't know if you've seen what's going on in that industry.
Mhm.
Um, and as it gets really, really big, government's going to come in and try to regulate it now. And it's like, so why is it important now to get involved and do this? So you can be a part of that movement, be a part and be relevant in that movement. Build your own. Like I said, anyone can learn how to do it.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a back end engineer or front end engineer. Claude Code, you can build any dashboard or anything that you wanted to do. Tie it into all of your socials, tie it into your CRM, tie it into no matter what it is. And
Mhm.
you'll say your dashboard will grow with you. I actually envision a world where we're all going to be wearing like a Jetson Nano, and that's going to be your own personal AI, not connected to the cloud.
Right.
But that's thing right there is going to be like my personal assistant. And I
Mhm.
forget stuff all the time. I go on 80 tangents no one asked for. To have a second brain that can do these things. And I even made a second brain of my partner. My partner passed away a few years ago, and I haven't been able to
Mhm.
replace him. He's creative director, art director. Well, I grabbed all of his art. I grabbed all of his writings and
Mhm.
everything that he did, and I made a little dashboard for me. No one else will ever see this. And
Yeah.
I can even use his voice because I have his voice recorded on multiple things that we did. And I can go on there and ask and talk to him and it'll pull his style first. It'll pull his writings first. It'll pull his voice to me.
Hmm.
And yeah, he's not 100% there, but at least I asked him first. And he
Yeah.
might help me get 15% of the way, 20% of the way, or help spawn something. And that's coming from his creation, what he did.
Hmm.
Um, some people think that's weird. I don't know.
No, I mean,
Dive in, do it.
yeah. Well, I think that's the main thing. I think it's we're fearing something, like we're already defining what it is before we've even tried it, and it maybe it's because of what we hear, what we've heard from people that are close to us, or just in general because it's everywhere, right? Like
Yeah,
everyone's talking about it. But
yeah, they
I
really
do
are.
think the way you're stressing it is like, AI is personal. I think it's the same way. Like I've tried to create multi-mode, working with it to get it to just support me because it's just me. Um, but that's, something you just said is like, yeah, we forget things. Like, in fact, the more and more we're
Well, we do.
utilizing
We're getting
anything.
old.
Yeah, well,
You
I'm
said
getting
you're
old.
50.
Yeah,
I'm close.
yeah.
I'm close.
Well, it's
So,
getting worse for all of
yeah,
us, right? And it's not just
yeah,
that I think we're old. I think it's the attention. Our attention is it's taken so many different directions. Everything is trying to grab our attention these days. So having that central brain, right? You're like the way you're talking about it, not only
hmm
for yourself, but like getting it implemented and not thinking like this is a silver bullet for any reason, but you can't you can't know anything about it until you do try it. Like we got to get past the initial judgment made through our tribe or our feed, whatever we're seeing and whatever we're hearing. Like
yeah,
we don't know what you don't
yeah.
know until you actually try it. But
And don't
I
jump
do
ahead.
thinking about it, then it's so important to solve, like, what do you think? This is a big question because this goes into that fear for a lot of people. It's like, well, if I don't do it, what's going to happen to me? And I don't mean to that result, but like, if we maybe there's something around AI that you've been thinking about, like if it's not dealt with, um, could be a major problem or issue, for a business or for a person who isn't taking care of the right things as they're starting to implement AI into their business or in an industry. But like, what do you think of, it means if it isn't solved, right? If the problem you're trying to solve as for yourself, but also as Boom, right? Like,
hmm
what do you think? What do you think that means for people if it's not solved?
They will eventually build something that we've already built.
Hmm.
So we're ahead of the game. We're 6 years ahead of the game, and we have something AI cannot do. And so I think that's really important. It's important to us, obviously, our investors, right? Because
Hmm.
everyone, all the investment world now is looking at groups saying, well, can AI do what you just pitched me? Are you really just pitching me a paper thin wrapper around an LLM and trying to SaaS that?
Hmm.
Right? They're looking at those things. And so the biggest question that investors now are asking is, what do you have that AI is not going to be able to do in the future? Show me that. Right? That's investable.
Hmm.
So I kind of answered your question in reverse. What is the risk of not doing it? Well, don't do it. I mean, the risk is how would that's a tough question to ask. I'm a fan of AI,
Right.
um, but I also don't think it's going to solve everything. I also tell people the realistic and AI shouldn't do 100% of anything. And
Right.
can it maybe do a couple tasks 100%? Sure, but it's not going to holistically do 100% of anything. And
Hmm.
it needs human in the loop. It has to have human in the loop. And if it is personal, make it personal. And somebody once told me it's a weird statement, and it kind of bothered me when they said this to me. And then I thought about it, and I was like, oh, that's kind of genius. Don't wait around for AI to replace you. Replace yourself with AI.
Yeah. No, I like that.
So if you can do that, if you can dive in and learn it, and I mean, even for your business, I mean, in what you do, when you say, well, it's just me, you can build a couple dashboards
Hmm.
for you that is like a 6-person marketing team.
Yeah.
It can run cron
I
jobs at
know.
night, come and do the posts. Your lead gen all the way to lead qualifying. It can do your qualifying. And so
Hmm. I know.
getting you it, and you can dive in and do it. And actually, one of my friends yesterday, she said she's an architect. And she goes, all right, I'm going to dive in. Like you always say, I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to try it. Skeptical of, can AI help me in what
Right.
she does with code and all these other things in there. And I'm like, just give it give it a shot. You have nothing to lose. It's not going to cost you much money. It's a little bit
Right.
of time. She's like, well, I don't have the time to do it. I'm like, you
That's
just
the
worked 13 hours yesterday.
yeah.
So I'm telling you, and wise person once told me as well, you'll always find the time to do what you really want to do. And that stuck with
Hmm.
me because,
Hmm.
when I kind of blow somebody off, there's a reason I blew them off. So it's kind of like, yeah, I'm going to find time to do what I really want to do. And if you want to keep working 13 hours a day,
Yeah,
then
then
don't do
keep
what I'm
doing it.
saying.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Just work 13 hours a day. You'll still have a job. You'll still do something. Something will be forced on you, and then AI might replace you one day because you
Hmm.
didn't want to pioneer something. That's on
Yeah.
you. But over the weekend, moonlight, figure out how to replace 3 of those hours. So you're only working 10, not 13. Now do that
Right.
every day. Then start chunking away at that and bringing
Hmm.
things to the table. Most managers and groups I talk to, they have no idea, and their underlings are bringing ideas to the table nonstop with AI. And they're like,
Right.
whoa, we don't have an AI policy. We don't have a data. Yes, you do. You have a data policy. You have a protection
Right.
policy. A group yesterday, one guy in the room yesterday used ChatGPT. Another person used a co-work out of Claude. Another person used N8N, and they're already each of them using a different AI
Hmm.
for their own personal life that's impacting kind of the business and things. And
Right.
so put remember that central brain or
Get the
second
hub.
brain, that second brain, get that up and running, protect that data, let your people ideate. You can wrap a policy around it if you need to, like, okay, fine, we're all going to use Claude or we're all going to use whatever you do.
Right.
Let them ideate, let them bring things to the table, let them fast fail. If something's not working, dump it, try something else. And it might not solve it, but you're not with AI, you're not going to spend a ton of money figuring out if it didn't work. You don't have to
Yeah.
do a 6 months digital transformation for some new CRM that everyone's raving about.
Well, I think what you just said about the whole, what's the cost of not solving it? Bringing up one individual, those practicing architecture, like all of the hours that we're putting in. Um, I could think back when I was practicing, like, man, I would have loved to have some weekends back, right?
Yeah,
Like
sitting there doing code.
PTO that I lost, whatever. I didn't take vacation because of whatever reason. The projects were never done, designs never done. Well, we do it as humans, that eventually takes its toll on us. So the cost is, okay, fine. You're going to always be working 13, 14, 15
13 hours a
hours,
day. Yeah.
or like you said, someone else is going to learn to solve it over here and they're going to be able to deliver projects. Like if it's a whole firm and everybody's working that way, the danger is there's another firm who has been able to maintain the human in the loop, as you said, maintain their human agency, finding a way to cut the amount of time that it takes to generate more revenue with less
Yep.
time, and they're actually not thinking about hours anymore, and they're thinking about projects as that's the investment, right? This is the
Yes.
cost of getting a project built. So I think
Absolutely.
that's where our, okay, fine, go back to hand drafting, go back, like we could take all of these things out of our lives and pull them out, but they were all done to enhance, make life experience better. And I
Evolve.
think with AI, the thing that you said is most important, and a real danger if it's not solved, is like thinking of it as being able to do everything all at once for everyone, when the reality is like just pinpoint one thing,
Hmm.
start there and start
Yes.
breaking some of those things free. So
Yep.
Timber,
I agree.
what do you think that, not just for Boom, but just AI, for you personally, AI, like how do you think about success as it relates to all the different buckets that you're focusing on, or just pick the one you think is most important? Um, what does success really look like for a good AI sort of implementation, or an AI, uh, approach for an individual, if they're starting to think about it and want to kind of dive into it?
Just listening and asking questions, and I'm just a tiny bit ahead of that curve. So, and I like to help
Hmm.
people. So success to me is and I'll keep the business side of it a little different. Obviously, we want our business to be successful. We want our
Right.
business to thrive. We want people to listen to what we're saying, and we're definitely getting there. And we definitely have something that is needed,
Mm-hmm.
and we're definitely the right team to help them transcend to that next layer, that next level. So that's that side of things. There's that answer. On the
Yeah.
other side of things, success is, to me, like personally, is um, if I can fundamentally help change the way people do something,
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what it is, then I
Yeah.
I feel success, because to me that right there is going to help inspire them to build something that evolves humanity again. I'd love to see, and maybe they're the ones to get free education, free STEM education for every man, woman, and child in the world, or maybe they're the ones to,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? Like, AI is here to help you right now do that and give you time back so you can figure something out, go learn something new, go
Mm-hmm.
inspire someone else. And I don't know if, and I've always been like that. It's not like, oh, I'm getting older, so now I want to give back. I'm like, to me, that's success.
Right.
And with AI has allowed me to even talk to you about it right now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's already success. That's already successful.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's thinking back to the problem that you're aiming to solve and why it's really about helping unleash something within each individual, right? It's like you're doing, I think about it from a coaching perspective. It's like how when you're coaching an individual, like we believe they have everything within them to take the step that they want to take, right? Take whatever action step. You're looking at it from a different perspective of not
Oh yeah,
necessarily a coach, but like, hey, I want to
AI
help.
coach.
Yeah, you're an AI coach to
I'm
help.
an AI coach. Yeah,
Exactly. People get the most out of what they want. So yeah,
yeah,
I
that's
think
true.
that's
Actually, I'm
great.
gonna use. Can I use that?
You
I'm gonna
can.
use that. I'm
You
gonna I'm
can.
gonna build a
You help me
dashboard
build
that's
my
just gonna be.
dashboard and you can use that.
Yeah, We'll call it coach.
Yeah,
And I'm
AI coach.
serious. Success to me
Yeah.
would be you reaching out and saying, "Help me start my first dashboard. Here are some pain points I'm having in this
Yeah.
one thing or something." If I can help you, and you're doing it on your own, and you're building it,
Hmm.
and you're understanding it, and that light bulb goes off,
Yeah.
that makes
Yeah.
me really happy.
Well, that's the aha moment, right? That's a coaching moment. So,
Yep.
well, look, we're been able to talk quite a bit. I'm hoping
Yes.
that this has helped listeners think about that human loop and that central brain, as you've been talking about it, keeping humans involved and getting them to understand, like, hey, that you don't have to be scared of it. Everyone else is telling you to be scared of it, but check in with yourself, maintain your agency to figure this out. Before we wrap up, Timber, we'll put everything in the show notes, like the links to all of your stuff. But if there's
Yeah.
anything else you want to share before we let listeners go, or something they can check out or something you want them to check out as well, let them know
Yeah, I
now.
mean, reach out on LinkedIn. If you have questions, if I have time to answer those. I like to answer questions on my own. I didn't build an AI for that yet, but I do have
Yeah.
friends that did. So yeah, reach out. I think the last thing is every single thing that I've said here has been pretty high level, but I can point to very specifics of
Hmm.
any of these. So the central brain, what you'd use, how you connect that, what is the best one to use, those types of things. Because right now I'm just trying to get the word and the message out that AI is personal and AI is an operating system. It is
Yeah.
your own. You can build your own operating system for you. That's my message right now. And yes, we're doing this stuff over here at Boom and at CoreSpec, and it's impacting the AC world and FM and stuff. And we are very proud of that. But this isn't a platform for me to like pitch my. I'm not a salesman,
Yeah.
right? I want to
That's
get the message out of you can do this. It's like,
right.
yeah, and you don't have to
Yeah.
be super nerdy to understand these things. You can literally ask ChatGPT, "Hey, give me a step by step." If you can follow a recipe,
Right.
you can build your own dashboard. You can use
Yeah.
Vercel, Supabase. They're free versions of those. Free version of Git, free version of Google Docs. I
Hmm.
mean, build
Lots
it.
of ways to test, lots of ways to build things. I think what you're sharing is like you know figure out your own level of fear by just trying,
And
because
then ask people.
again in talking it over with people, not being afraid. I think it's the things that we're hearing constantly is like, oh, AI is going to take your job if you're not trained in it. Well, like you said, find a way to get AI to replace yourself first. The future proofing of yourself is beginning to understand your current state, as you said. Where's your data? How are you thinking about your data? Go through it as an individual, looking at those tasks that you're doing on a daily basis, things that you just don't want to do anymore, but are required to be done. Start there. Start small. Just start chipping away at this. So, Timber,
Emails.
thanks for your time. Thanks for coming on and having a deeper conversation about AI and the human loop and what you're doing there with Boom and kind of your passion towards helping other people, as you said, sort of the AI coach approach to it. So I appreciate the time. Thanks for being on Activating Curiosity.
Appreciate it, Ryan. Till next time. Let's do it again.
Yeah. Thanks, Timber.
Thank you.
Thanks. So that is the episode with Timber Barker, CEO and founder of Boom Interactive. Wanted to have the conversation with Timber. Been following him, kind of having some conversations with him, and just his approach to AI to get us to think differently about it than I think a lot of the ways that we're hearing and learning about artificial intelligence or large language models. And his background coming from security, relationships with people within the industry, but it really just boils down to, just as he said, thinking about the fear that you have of it if you haven't tried it, not thinking in the term of, hey, this has to solve every single problem all at once, which I think is what traps a lot of us into a change fatigue and hoping that this software, that change that we're about to make, a process change that we're about to make, will solve everything. And the realistic side is just sort of start at a personal level, thinking about things that are in your way every day, or things you're not passionate about but that have to be done. Like, how can you get those sort of off of your plate, or at least decreasing the amount of hours from 5 to 15 minutes, as Timber explained with one of his clients. And I think what we're trying to get to with AI versus what we hear all the time is getting back those hours. And what you do with them and how you define work, that is you. That is all personal. That is what you're able to do as a human. You choose your personal how you want to utilize any time that you get back, because you begin to look at AI differently. You think about it from a personal perspective. As a business, you think about it from a personal perspective as well, and how each one of those humans that are there, like, you're not trying to replace them. You're trying to give them something more than they currently have. That can also begin to increase revenue for your business. I don't know by how much. That's independent of each business. But the reality is can we do more with less output needed and less energy and less time, in ways that we're focusing on ourselves and our business? So again, these conversations can feel a little heavy for a lot of people, but our goal with the construction side is, like, we're not saying that a lot of the AI is going to be able to go do plumbing for residential or repair an HVAC system, but it might be able to free up time for those individuals who are really good at that, and that's what they do for the living, like, to be able to go do more of it and helping more people within their community at a quicker pace. And that's what it's about. So I hope that you are able to, take those things that you are looking at and thinking about with AI. And if you have begun to work on it, even reaching out to Timber and others and just trying to understand what's the next thing you could be doing to benefit yourself and benefit your business and your clients' lives, and make sure that it's the best experience for all of us, as we're out living in our communities. So until next time, I hope you continue to dive into those things, explore them. I hope you also continue to activate your curiosity as well as curiosity within others. The Activating Curiosity podcast is brought to you by Connective Consulting Group and Connective Coaching, part of the Curiosity Building Experiences. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe so you'll never miss a conversation. Share the podcast with your network and help us bring more curiosity into the construction industry. Interested in becoming a guest or a sponsor? Visit us at activatingcuriosity.com for more details. Until next time, keep leading with curiosity. One of the themes that keeps showing up in conversations across the AEC industry is this: many of our biggest challenges don't start in the field. They start much earlier. The farther decisions travel through a project before teams coordinate around them, the harder they become to change. That's why Overcast Innovations is focused on bringing architects, engineers, contractors, and owners together earlier around integrated building solutions. Because when coordination improves earlier in the process, teams spend less time reacting and more time delivering on the original vision. Overcast Innovations believes stagnation is the enemy of innovation. And sometimes innovation starts by simply asking the right question sooner. Learn more at overcastinnovations.com.